Hello everyone, this is Abhinav Chaudhary and you all are watching my YouTube channel, The Understanding Global. Imagine stepping onto a plane, buckling your seatbelt, and trusting that the aircraft you are in is safe, designed, built, and tested with the utmost care. But what if I told you that behind the scenes, some airline manufacturers, yes, the very companies that make these planes, have been dodging accountability when their aircraft crashes? Today, we will dive deep into a disturbing reality: how airline manufacturing giants evade the accountability for the crashes of their aircraft, putting lives at risk and often walking away untouched. Let's start with a brief history of the aviation accidents. Let's start with a bit of a context. Aviation has come a long way in terms of safety. Statistically, flying is the safest mode of travel, but when crashes do occur, the results are catastrophic. Think of disasters like Boeing 737 MAX that crashes in 2018 and 2019 that killed over 346 people. The McDonnell Douglas DC-10 aircraft crashes in the 1970s due to the poor design. Concorde crash in 2000, which ended the era of the supersonic passenger jets. In each of these incidents, investigations pointed to the flaws in design, corporate negligence, or cost cutting decisions. But rarely do these companies face full accountability. Why or why not? Aircraft manufacturers often try to avoid liability for crashes by arguing that the accident was caused by the factors outside of their control, such as the pilot error, maintenance issues, or unforeseen circumstances like bird strikes or weather. They often claim that their product was not defective or that any alleged defect did not contribute to the crashes. There are certain ways through which these companies try to evade their responsibility. I will discuss them one by one. Let's start with the number one: pilot error and maintenance issues. Manufacturers may attempt to shift blame to the pilots, arguing that their actions or inactions were the primary cause of the accident. This could include negligence in the handling of the aircraft, improper training of the pilots, or failure to adhere to the procedures. I'm not saying the pilots can't be responsible for the crashes, but in the cases just like that happened a month ago in Ahmedabad, pilots are not alive to defend themselves. Similarly, companies may argue that the maintenance issues, such as improper servicing or failures to address the identified problems, were the root cause for the crashes. Point number two: unforeseen circumstances and the external factors. Manufacturers may claim that the crash was due to events or conditions that were not reasonably foreseeable or preventable. This could include bird strikes, severe weather, or problems with the aircraft infrastructure. Companies might argue that their product was not designed to withstand such unpredictable events and that the accident was not a result of a defect in their design or manufacturing. Point number three: defective design or manufacturing. The production of an aircraft involves numerous suppliers and subcontractors, making it very difficult to pinpoint the exact source of malfunction or defect. Regulatory authorities, airlines, and manufacturers share responsibility for maintaining safety standards, leading to potential disputes over who is ultimately accountable in the event of an accident. While manufacturers may face claims related to the defective design or manufacturing, they often try to demonstrate that the alleged defect that did not contribute to the accident or that the defect was not a substantial factor in causing the crash. They might also argue that the defect was not present at all at the time of the manufacture or that it was introduced later due to improper maintenance or handling of the aircraft. Point number four: limited liability for component part manufacturers. Component part manufacturers have a more limited liability because they often don't have direct contact with the end user and may not be aware of all the potential risks associated with the final product. They may also manufacture parts to specification provided by the aircraft manufacturer, further limiting their control over the design process. Now let's examine the one of the most infamous case, the Boeing 737 Max. After two fatal crashes, Lion Air Flight 610 and the Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302, investigation found that a software system called the MCAS was to be blamed. Boeing allegedly rushed the plane's development, skipped proper pilot training requirements, and withheld critical information from both the regulators and the pilots. While aircraft manufacturers may face liability for accidents, they often employ legal strategies to minimize their responsibility. These strategies include arguing that the crash was caused by factors beyond their control, challenging that the claims of the defective design or manufacturing, and utilizing the international law and conventions to limit their liability. There were certain key points in this notorious case. Number one was the Boeing misled the FAA. Internal emails revealed employees mocking regulators and expressing safety concerns. The company pushed production to compete with the Airbus, a rival company, prioritizing profit over safety of the passengers. Here I'm particularly pointing out Boeing. Regarding the aircraft 737 MAX, Boeing has reached agreements with the US Justice Department to avoid criminal prosecution related to the crashes like the two fatal 737 MAX incidents in 2018 and 2019 that killed 346 people. These deals, including compensation to victims' families and fines, have been criticized as being lenient and allowing Boeing to escape full accountability, especially since a criminal conviction could jeopardize their status as a federal contractor. Lawyers for some victim families have called such deals morally repugnant and a slap on the wrist. Focus on profit over safety. This is a very, you can say, a cruel thing. Critics argue that the Boeing prioritized profits over safety, which led to a series of crashes and mechanical problems. There is also evidence suggesting that the company ignored quality control issues and production flaws in the 737 MAX line of aircrafts. Did anyone go to jail? No. Boeing settled with the US Department of Justice in 2021 for $2.5 billion, most of which went to the airlines and the crash victims. But no executives were held criminally responsible. This is the blueprint for evading the accountability. Companies often look for the legal loopholes and settlements. Big aviation companies often avoid criminal consequences due to legal protection, settlements, and a complex international jurisdiction. How they do it? Let's discuss this with point by point scenario. Number one, deferred prosecution agreements, DPAs. These allow companies to settle without admitting any guilt. Number two, non disclosure clauses. Victim families are often paid off with strict gag orders that they cannot disclose anything. Number three, the international complexity. Crashes often involve multiple countries, making it hard to assign clear legal responsibility. Point number four, establishing a direct link between the manufacturer's negligence and an accident can be challenging in court. Manufacturers often possesses substantial legal and financial resources, making it very difficult for the victims or smaller entities to challenge them in the court. In short, the legal system is tilted to allow corporations to avoid true compensations. Why don't government hold these companies more accountable? Because these companies, especially like Boeing, are too politically connected. Boeing is the second largest US defense contractor. It provides thousands of jobs and billions in revenue. Here's what happened behind the closed doors. Let's discuss this. Former government officials sit on company boards. Lobbying groups spend millions to influence aviation regulations. Politicians hesitate to act tough on companies that support local economies. This too big to punish status creates a culture of impunity. Apart from this, media manipulation and PR control play their part. After a crash, airline manufacturers swing into damage control. This happens every time. Carefully crafted public statements are given. There are promises to do better in the future. Strategic press briefings are given by the board and sponsored media coverage. They reframe a kind of a narrative, shifting blame to the pilot error, maintenance issues, or a third party parts. Meanwhile, internal documents often reveal the truth, but by then the public outrage has faded. Media complexity and short attention spans help these companies escape the long term scrutiny they deserve. What should be the role of FAA and regulatory capture? Regulatory agencies like the Federal Aviation Administration, that is FAA, are supposed to protect us, but often they are captured by the very industries they oversee. In the case of the Boeing 737 MAX, Boeing employees were allowed to self certify safety features. FAA leadership was reportedly under pressure to approve planes quickly. Internal reviews showed that the FAA underestimated the risk of that software MCAS. This is what experts call regulatory capture. When oversight bodies serve corporate interest over public safety, strong evidence is crucial in determining liability in aviation accidents. This includes maintenance logs, flight records, incident reports, and expert testimony. Analyzing these evidences can help reconstruct the sequence of events leading to the crash and determine the extent to which each party was responsible. At the heart of this issue is a single word: profit. In aviation manufacturing, a delay in delivery can cost millions. A software patch is cheaper than hardware redesign. Pilot restraining is considered an expense, not a safety necessity. Executives are incentivized to push products to market fast, even when engineers warn them of problems. And when accidents happen, insurance settlements and the PR cleanup are already budgeted in. Let's talk about the human cost of the corporate negligence. Now let's pause for a moment and reflect on the human cost. In all crashes, especially 737 MAX and Dreamliner recently, victims included children, families, doctors, and workers. The crashes were so violent that the identification of remains took weeks. Families were not only left grieving but had to fight years in court for justice. Some received payouts, but no amount of money can replace a lost loved one. And it's this emotional reality, often hidden from headlines, that shows just how devastating corporate negligence can be. Aircraft made in one country often fly globally. When one manufacturer gets away with the evasion, it sets a global precedent. If Boeing, Airbus, or any other giant walks free, what message does it send to the smaller manufacturers, to regulators in developing countries like India? Safety standards start eroding, public trust begins to vanish, and aviation becomes less about engineering and more about economies. Now, the most important segment of this video: what can be done? So, what needs to change? Stronger oversight, independent regulators with more authority, whistleblower protection, criminal liability, global collaboration, public pressure. But only through collective action we can stop history from repeating itself. There are some potential solutions to enhance accountability of these airline manufacturers. Point number one is strengthening the regulatory oversight, increasing funding and resources for regulatory bodies, enhancing their independence from the industry influence, and implementing robust oversight mechanisms that can improve accountability of these airline manufacturers. Point number two: promoting transparency, requiring manufacturers to disclose safety critical information more openly to the regulators, and the public can foster greater accountability. Point number three: protecting whistleblowers. Most important. Stronger whistleblower protection laws and the policies are essential to encourage employees to report concerns without fear of reprisal. Point number 4, enhancing legal framework. Adapting legal frameworks to address the complexities of the modern aircraft manufacturers and holding all parties accountable for their respective roles that can ensure justice for the victims, definitely. Point number 5, encouraging a safety culture. Fostering a strong safety culture within the manufacturing companies where employees are empowered to raise concerns and safety is prioritized over production targets. This is very crucial. Whistleblowing and internal accountability is very much needed. This is the need of the hour. Whistleblowers can play a very critical role in exposing safety issues and manufacturing shortcomings. However, they often face risk of retaliation and career damage for speaking out. Boeing whistleblower, I'm talking here about an example. Boeing whistleblower John Barnett, who raised concerns about the safety practices, died by suicide last year. He highlighted the potential consequences faced by those who expose the internal issues. He was an American whistleblower who was known for the substantiated safety and the quality reports to the Federal Aviation Administration FAA about Boeing production line of the Boeing 787 Dreamliner. Bennett worked in the quality control of Boeing for 32 years, serving for 7 as a manager at the Boeing South Carolina. Barnett was one of several employees to go public about the malpractices happening at the Boeing, beginning in 2019 with the New York Times, and was featured in the 2022 Netflix documentary titled Downfall: The Case Against Boeing. By addressing these challenges and implementing proactive measures, the aviation industries can move towards a more accountable and safer environment for all stakeholders involved. So the next time you board a plane, remember this: you are not just trusting a pilot, you are trusting a multi billion dollar system built on promises of safety and accountability. But as we have seen, that trust has been broken before and it can be broken again. Airline manufacturer companies may be engineering marvels, no doubt in that. But until they are held truly accountable, lives will continue to be a collateral damage of unhacked ambition. Stay informed, stay critical, and never stop asking who is really responsible when a plane falls from the sky. If you like this video, then please subscribe and share. Thank you.